do you think the influx has affected you as a homeless person?
Yes, because it's hard for us to get housing. And they get 2,000. Well, today I found out 2,500, but I heard they get $2,000 for each of that. I don't know how many kids they have, but it do affect us. They get new brand new cars. What you driving? So they taking the jobs, they taking the houses, and they get money. So yeah, it do hurt.
You know, I've been covering the migrant crisis a lot on this channel, and I've really tried to stay away from certain groups. Some of those groups are brothers from the African diaspora or the African lineage, people from places such as, let's say, West Africa and now Haiti. Now, historically, Haiti's been through a lot, through no fault of their own. They have suffered very similar to a lot of the stories of those that came from Africa during the slave trade. African Americans, Jamaicans, or Haitians, all of us though have a very unique and defining story. Haiti has paid an extreme price for their independence, and they've been targeted as blacks. They haven't even been accepted into the African Union, and they've been pretty much left to die out on their own. I get it and I understand it. And so Haiti, if it was allowed to develop, wouldn't need to flee. But Haitians are fleeing. They're fleeing into every parts of France, the United States. In the United States now, they're coming to Springfield, Ohio. And we've all heard some of the claims about what's happening in Ohio.
What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame.
Now, there was a story of a Haitian brother walking around with a chicken. That wasn't in Springfield, that was in Columbus, Ohio. And of course, you know, this has been evidently shown to be not true, that pets are not coming up missing in Springfield. But we do know one thing, is that the Springfield, Ohio is not a rich city. And the Haitian migrants coming into Springfield has put a big stress on the educational system, you know, real estate, and the workforce. And people who are suffering in all of that are other people who live in Springfield. This is just what happens when you take in migrants, no matter where you are. In Uganda, there's been migrants coming here for years. There's more migrants. I believe Uganda accepts more migrants than anybody else in Africa for right now. You have South Sudanese here, you have Rwandese here. And of course, that does put a stress on the country and on infrastructure and on resources. But I've noticed something. African Americans, AKA hashtag ADOS, hashtag FBA, we've been pretty silent on these issues as compared to the past. Now, every now and again, you get somebody like John Legend who will say this.
Hello, everyone. My name is John Legend, and I was born as John R. Stevens from a place called Springfield, Ohio. Oh, Springfield, Ohio. You may have heard of Springfield, Ohio this week. Nobody's eating cats. Nobody's eating dogs. We all just want to live and flourish and raise our families in a healthy and safe environment. How about we love one another? I grew up in the Christian tradition. We said to love our neighbor as we love ourselves and treat strangers as though they might be Christ. So, how about we adopt that ethos when we talk about immigrants moving to our communities and don't spread hateful, xenophobic, racist lies about them.
But John Legend is from Springfield, Ohio. He is incredibly rich, and we all know that he is not going to invite any of these migrants over to the home. However, there was a case of one migrant in Springfield, Ohio, who basically was responsible for killing an 11-year-old child.
J.D. Vance and Donald Trump. They have spoken my son's name and used his death for political gain. I wish that my son, Aiden Clark, was killed by a 60-year-old white man. I bet you never thought anyone would ever say something so blunt. But if that guy killed my 11-year-old son, the incessant group of hate-spewing people would leave us alone. The last thing that we need is to have the worst day of our lives violently and constantly shoved in our faces. But even that's not good enough for them. They take it one step further. They make it seem as though our wonderful Aiden appreciates your hate, that we should follow their hate. And look what you've done to us. We have to get up here and beg them to stop.
So let's talk about this, and let's really get to the nitty-gritty of it. If this child had been African American and that child was accidentally killed by a Haitian immigrant or Haitian migrant, it would be a lot of smoke in the city in today's time. There seems to be a bigger tension growing between those who are from #FBA, Foundational Black Americans, also known as the original African Americans, in comparisons to the migrants. And the reason why it is because I think a lot of people from our community feel that sticking up for Haitian migrants or African migrants is only gonna hurt you. The way that it used to be in the 60s and the 70s, where, you know, in the past when we may do that, it's like, okay, well, we're increasing our numbers and these people are gonna join in with us in our fight. Yeah, and of course some did, but many didn't. And many of those individuals saw themselves uniquely different from our community, which is okay, we understand that, but they still benefited from the things that our community provided. And then that is the tension now. So when you hear the stories of what's going on with people from Haiti, one part of you is like, wow, you know, that is messed up. Like, why are they doing Haitians like that? But then at the other part of that, you're like, wow, but if we try to support and stick up for the Haitian migrants, what happens to us? And that's a really big question now. You see what's happening in Chicago, you see what's happening in New York City, and now you start thinking about self-preservation. And that's something where I feel that pan-Africanism doesn't really address. And as much as I believe in pan-Africanism as a concept, and I do practice it, I do believe in pan-Africanism with delineation. And that means that once it comes to a point where the group in your community has to suffer for another group of another community, that's where the delineation needs to start. And I think that we all know that, but we don't want to put that into perspective, and we should. Pan-Africanism erases all of that in theory and basically, you know, hey, let's all kind of deny ourselves to work with each other. But that doesn't happen, all right? I'm living in Uganda right now. I can tell you that it doesn't happen. You don't get parity from people. That's the issue. If you're a group that significantly has more than another group, and you've been in a place longer than another group, and you try to give foreigners parity, what happens to you? You end up being replaced. This is what happens to Africans, right? Even in their country, they're very hospitable. They help a lot of people, and they help a lot of people get on. And they end up being replaced on their own continent by the Lebanese, by the Chinese, by people like that. And at the end of the day, you know, they have less and others have more. And I feel like that's going to be the same case going on here. And as much as I love Haiti and I understand what's happening to them, and I don't really feel like anything bad should happen to them because of what the United States has done to Haiti. But at a point where I see like that might affect the Black community in America, or if it would, what choice would I really make in speaking out to a point? That's what I'm saying, right? Like now I feel like 50 years, 60 years of seeing this going on in Black America and seeing how we've been in shambles, and I've seen other groups doing very well that are from the African diaspora. And I know that if it was the other opposite way, that would not be the case. If it was us coming back here that would not be the case, right? We wouldn't get parity. And many times when we come to Africa, we don't get any parity. I can tell you that right now. I've been here 4, 5, or 6 years, and it just comes to a point where you have to draw a line, right? You have to draw a line. All right. Now, it's unfortunate what's happened to Haiti, and I get it, and it's not fair to them, right? They should definitely be helped to rebuild, and so their people can thrive, and it's unfair. But if that comes at the cost of hurting African Americans, another displaced group, I don't think I can say, well, you know what? Well, let's all come together and just be one, because it's unrealistic to come together and just be one when you're two different people, two different groups, two different communities. And I feel like that's what African Americans are starting to realize, is that as much as we feel sorry for Haitian immigrants, and we know that they're good people, and we know that, you know, the media is casting a bad light on them, but we also know that we're also voting for our replacement in the process. And it hurts us. I haven't seen how a lot of African immigration or Caribbean immigration to the United States has really benefited the African American community, but I can tell you that it has benefited certain groups in Africa. That we can say. You know, when you see like Nigerian excellence and you see how good they're doing, I don't have a problem with it. But again, you don't really see how that has benefited the groups in America as far as the Black community. And that's something that Pan-Africanism doesn't address. And it's still like, okay, we'll continue to try to just give on one end and hoping that somebody else gives. And really, it doesn't happen. And that's where we are now in the migrant crisis. Because if you're from Chicago and you find out migrants are getting new things and you're not getting those things, but those migrants are from Haiti, they're from Africa, and you're an African American and you're homeless and you can't get anything and you have paid taxes into the system. Well, Pan-Africanism at that time was going to pretty much go out the door. It's going to be survivalism. And I think that's the case with a lot of the migrants. When they come over to America, it's survivalism. There's no Pan-Africanism based on that. It's survivalism. So again, we're still working on as to how this is beneficial to everyone involved. And there has to be some level of parity. And until we address the parity questions in the Pan-African idea, which this idea has to change, it will change. It's becoming a weaker concept, I think, by day and night with the way that it is right now. It needs to add value to both sides to certain points. It has to. Once communities can come together and say, listen, we're from the African American community, or we're from the Ivorian community, or we're from the Nigerian community, and it could even be within Africa. We're from the Kenyan community, you're from the Ghana community, and we're going to want to have moderators on each side to make sure that we give you guys the same exact value to work with you that you give to us. And we want to make it mutually beneficial. Pan-Africanism cannot work when it benefits one group of people and it doesn't benefit the other. That's why people are not talking about it or speaking up about it on that behalf. A lot of people feel bad about what's going on with Haitian migrants, but don't want to say anything because, well, damn, we already know defending that means they might come over here and that might be my son. Not to say that all Haitians or anybody is a criminal, because we know it's not the case. That is the feeling that is going forth in many people's minds who don't want to talk about it. And this is not to be a conversation about division. This is a conversation about a problem, and a problem that could be fixed, because it's sad to see what's happening to the Haitians. You know what I mean? It's sad to hear the lies put up against such a strong and historic people who are a beautiful people. But at the same time, my community is a group of strong and beautiful people too, that we are different from them and we have a different experience than them. And that's the story of Pan-Africanism and why it continues to have a problem. And we have to address it. We that want to work in the Pan-African communities must be willing to give value to each other to make these relationships work. Otherwise, you're going to see people go back into their corner and delineate. Like me, I'm delineating to a point now. I used to wasn't like that to a certain degree. I felt like, hey, let's kind of deny certain things about myself to work with others, and then you get burned, and it's not fun. So guys, what do you think? It's your boy O'Shea D. Jackson back with another episode here on Kanganda. I'm out.